7:02.
The Big Interview
With Bongani Bingwa.
16 after 7. I've asked a simple question this morning. Is our justice system working? It's taken decades for the families of the Craddock 4 and other apartheid-era victims to get any sense of what might have happened to their loved ones. And still, over 300 cases referred for prosecution by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Remember that one? Well, those remain unresolved. And now the president wants a new commission to explain why. So, a commission about a commission. Meanwhile, as you heard in Eyewitness News, high-profile fugitives like the Guptas, like the Bushiris, have exposed cracks in the extradition system. The NPA continues to hobble along following a series of bungles and losses in the courts. I mean, this is what the judges say. They are ill-prepared, disorganized, overreach, even lie. This as public frustration mounts. The Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, Mmamoloko Kubayi, joins us now to address some of these pressing concerns. Minister, always a pleasure to have you on our show, and thank you for agreeing to talk to us. Good morning, Minister. Are you there? Oh, dear. Minister, are you there? I'm going to put her through to the producers. All right, let's try that again. Minister Kubayi, are you there?
Yes, good morning, Morgan, and good morning to your listeners. I'm not so sure what happened. I was talking here.
All right, sorry, we got cut off for a little bit. I appreciate you coming on to the show. Let's talk justice. I think we can agree that the clearest measure of any system is that if somebody is a wrongdoer, they know they will be caught, they will be prosecuted, and they will be punished. Is it fair to say that in this country, many a criminal sleeps very well at night knowing that won't be them?
Not exactly, Bongani. I think what we are seeing is that you've got high-profile cases which don't take even 10% of the cases that you deal with in the country within the justice system. That are a bit of a challenge. And I will explain. There are various issues that over time, as we build our justice system in these 31 years, you find in that you have to deal with very complex matters. It's not only ourselves, but globally. Because the environment changes, globalization changes, the challenges that we deal with are more complex than what we were dealing with previously. But I take the criticism in relation to those because all of us can sit and say, okay, it's the small fishes that are being caught that are facing prosecution, and the big fishes are not seeing the day in court, or they are not finding themselves in the correctional services. And that is correct. And hence, we continue to work to improve the systems, especially from our side as the executive.
Look, I know some of these issues, to be fair to you, and I want you to understand where I'm coming from, some of these issues will predate your tenure, all right? So I'm not putting the blame squarely and completely on your
They always
door,
say, Bongani,
right?
when you take a portfolio, you take the good, the bad, and the ugly. So
All right.
I will take it.
Let's start with the apartheid-era crimes. I mean, the longer it takes to deal with these matters, the more likely the perpetrators are likely to get away with them. A simple question, ministers, what are we afraid of?
I don't think we are afraid of anything. I did ask a report when I arrived, Bongani, and the report I received is that almost about 37 cases were looked at and were closed. I think what we are suffering from, and we would take that as government cognizance to that, is communication. When I was when I was doing the reburial in Soweto, because of the manner and how I have done those reburials, people started being aware that we are actually handing over the remains to families. And people were starting to ask, how many more? I said, actually, we are left with less than 10. I'm concluding in this financial year. That's why I'm pushing to finalize. So all the others that were done, the public was not aware that reburials and handing off the remains to the families have been happening.
Yeah.
More than 70 has happened. So it's that, Bongani, that we deal with. In the issues of prosecution,
Yes.
let's take the others. And I was in court on Monday with the Craddock 4 case. The legal representative raised a concern to say we could have done better as government Many of those, for example, and he was quoting the times that we had passed on to say they could have given the witness the evidence in. But if prosecutors would rush to court when they are not yet ready, you also risk the issue that thing will be thrown out because preparation has not been done properly. We've seen cases where even the public themselves have been outcrying to say, but why is NPA rushing? They seem to arrest before they can investigate. And when they investigate and then arrest, or when investigate and add, then you still find the criticism. But every day as we get feedback, we deal with it. If every case, Bongani, is different. I think that's what I also learned.
Look,
every single case is different and the complexities are different.
I suppose here's the question. We're now thinking about a commission to investigate the delays of the TRC Commission's recommendations for prosecutions. That we know costs millions, and you wonder if those millions couldn't be better spent prosecuting the alleged perpetrators. The TRC told us who these people were.
Look, Bongani, I would prefer not to have the commission, but it is requested by the apartheid victims who are saying there was a deliberate act within the state to delay prosecutions. And we said, no, we don't think there's been deliberate actions. There are various reasons, various cases, as I say. And they went to court. There is a case before the High Court, Pretoria High Court, where they are seeking constitutional damages for the fact that the delays were there. And that's why, and one of their prayers in that case is that do a commission of inquiry to determine to sort out what we are disagreeing about. And we had to agree to that because it's part of a case process.
Right.
We have no choice to do it, but to do it. And we do agree that it is important that we clear the air. But also because we can't agree to constitutional damages on the fact that there's one person that believes that there's been delay.
Look,
just on that one, on this one commission, it's going to start in July. It's got 6 months to finish the work because we need to take that report back to Pretoria High Court.
But we are here because, as you've admitted in this interview, more could have been done, which I think is an understatement. But let's move on to current issues now, Minister. Does anyone take the National Prosecuting Authority seriously?
We should, all of us. Where there are weaknesses, Bongani, we must address them. Where there are challenges, we must deal with them. Let's take what has been happening. You know, if you look at the GBV, because we started interviewing and intervening, monitoring the cases, because I can't interfere. In the last 6 days, because we're starting to do, I'll get the stats of this week. Last stats on Friday, we had more than 7 cases of GBV that were in court that were prosecuted successfully. And out of those, 2 cases particularly had life sentences. And that's part of the work that is being done. Now,
Minister, that should be, I'm going to come in.
That's what I'm saying.
That should be routine. That should be, I mean, I appreciate that kind of thing is happening. I'm not taking that away from you, but that should be routine. That's a bird flying, a fish swimming.
Answering the question, Bongani, that you are saying, we should lose confidence in NPA. That's the answer I'm giving to you, that we can't lose confidence in the NPA because many people are finding justice with the work of the NPA. And where there are weaknesses, let's close the gap, let's address them. And like what I'm doing, we will call them to account. We will not interfere with the prosecutorial independence, but we'll assist where there are weaknesses so that they can perform better, especially on complex cases.
All right, let's talk about some of those complex cases because routinely your prosecutors are reprimanded. And whilst that might amuse the chattering classes, it's a fundamental breakdown in the rule of law. I can mention any number of cases. The Guptas, there was the Matela Koko case, Timothy Omotoso. Just this week, they were sent packing in the case against Muradu Cholota because they lied. And there are other cases, as you well know. I think one commentator suggested it was the Boswell Wilkie circus in town. That's how the NPA is viewed.
Okay. Let's go to the issue of Cholota. You'd have seen the statement by NPA, and I'm waiting for the written judgment. It's not yet out. I'm not so sure because judges sometimes don't write immediately. So I'm waiting for the written judgment. If you see the statement by NPA NPA is denying that what is currently in the media reports that the judge said they lied is not correct. So we're sitting from different points. What we have picked up and we are definite about, all of us, is that with the extradition, the SCA judgment had an impact on the work of the department and NPA. Mm-hmm. And that's why you would have seen my statement saying, I am reviewing the cases to look at where a minister didn't sign on an extradition so that I can sign. Because the principle of extradition, that's what it's done. So the Cholota matter is that issue of extradition in relation to the Schultz matter that was judged in SA. And the issue here, Bongani, I must say, NPA requested the SCA not to make that judgment retrospective because it will have impact. And that's why they're appealing it. They are going to Constitutional Court to request that we accept the judgment. But can you not allow it to be retrospective? Because we've got cases various around the world in courts that will be affected, including this one of Cholota.
Minister, I suppose as a layperson, my question then is, if the legal authority to initiate an extradition resides with your office, and again, I know this predates your tenure, surely the Ministry of Justice would be aware that the NPA had done this without the requisite authority. Do they just look on?
No. They didn't do it. The issue here is the signing, Bongan. The memo exists in the department. The minister had received the memo and the briefing that there is going to be an extradition
Did they sign it?
Yes, the minister signed the memo. The issue is the letter that went out to be sent out was not the signature of the minister. So it's a technicality.
All right. Let's talk about the Johannesburg head of prosecutions, Andrew Chauke. Shamila Batoy, the National Director of Public Prosecutions, made a request to the president, 2023, after Chauke was investigated over his conduct in high-profile cases, the Richard Mdluli matter, the Katamana police unit matter. Why is he still there? And can you explain why he withdrew the charges against former Minister Zizarda?
Okay, I wouldn't explain the withdrawal of charges. The prosecutors do that on their own. Otherwise, it will be interference by the minister on prosecutorial matters. So that I can't go out and explain. I can only explain if there are problems. On the issue of the NPP submitting to the president, yes, that was done. And when I got into the portfolio again, I asked for the full report. Then I found that the president, after receiving the report and the request, there were information that he had requested back. And that has not been done until I arrived in the portfolio at the beginning of this year. Those information and everything was submitted to the president, and he is making a decision on that.
I mentioned the Zizarda matter because part of the request for Andrew Chauke to be suspended was exactly this issue of high-profile cases that don't get successful prosecutions, and the NPA gets the criticism when we know that this is a possible case or scenario in which the lead prosecutor may be compromised.
No, for me, what I have before me, it's not that, Bongani. I don't have a report from NDPP or even as part of the package that was submitted to the president that says that he interferes with the prosecution and he would have done that. So I don't want to comment on that, and I would like to be circumvent in dealing with this matter because it might need me to be supporting the president to dealing with it because I am the minister that helps the president and advises the president. So I would want to be circumvent. My explanation, Bongan, is that the president received all the documents at the beginning of this year, all from what he had requested information of. He is processing it. He has updated me, and the process has been moving. He will make a public announcement on the matter because I do think that the matter must be laid to rest very soon.
All right. Finally, Minister, we don't have time to go into the construction mafia, kidnapping syndicates, kingpins of building and car hijackings, drug lords, gang lords, many of whom should be behind bars, but who are happily enjoying the fruits of their ill-gotten gains. Just this week, we spoke to the NLC chairperson, Professor Pityana, who was frustrated at the slow rate of prosecutions of wrongdoers in his organization by the NPA.
Which organization?
The National Lotteries Commission's chair.
Okay.
A previous National Director of Public Prosecutions famously claimed the days of disrespecting the NPA are over. He was wrong, wasn't he, Minister?
No, I think let's do this. Bongani, I think sometimes in the public we confuse which law enforcement agencies deals with what. If you can see, quite a number of lotterism issues have been dealt with by the SIU. So this is how things are working. The SIU, the Hawks, will go and do an investigation, including the police. They will get a file ready. They will take that file to NPA for NPA to make a decision on prosecution and not. As we are aware, all of us, SIU is still currently working. They're doing preservation orders. They're dealing with the issues in terms of the lotteries. We can't say the state has failed. So we've got to see all this as part of the state.
I'm going to come in there, Minister, and say the chair of the NLC, who has taken over that organization, says they are frustrated. I completely understand what the mandate of the SIU is. Hold on, ma'am. Hold on.
Yeah.
I completely understand the mandate of the SIU, but he's saying, and obviously there are many cases around the NLC. It can't be that the SIU must investigate all of them before decisions are taken. He's saying where there is evidence that we have provided, that the SIU has provided, and we have said we will provide supplementary assistance as may be required by the NPA, still those matters aren't prosecuted.
So we are asking the NPA to arrest before investigation is concluded. Because you can't deal with it.
Not all the investigations are not concluded.
But it's one thing to deal with it in piecemeal. The issue is that the investigation must be concluded. I will reach out to the chair of NLC, because if they have challenges and they are not understanding how things are doing, they should reach out to us.
So ma'am, is it your position that if 50 people steal from one organization, until all 50 have been investigated, where there are individual cases concluded, those can't proceed?
No. It's not the same. If the cases, that's what I'm saying, Bongani, each case we must look at it differently. If it's interlinked, because remember, once you go before the court and you start running a case, you can't come back and run it again. That's the risk you have. So if the case is interlinked, you need to say in a case, I have a case number 200, and it's got the following people that are charged. 100 of them, 20 of them, and all of them accused number 1 until the last number that you have. Because if you misaccuse a particular person, you are not including, you can't go and run another trial and then call that accused number 1. I don't know if you've seen that. Let's look at many cases. It will be one case. Let's take the asbestos one that is in the public domain. You will see there's accused number 1 until number 10. And all of them have to be there, so that when the prosecution run the case, they are all knowing where they are implicated and how they are implicated.
Right.
So it will be reckless to call for NPA to individually and delink a case, because all those cases will collapse.
All right, Minister Kubayi, always appreciate your availability. Thank you for explaining all of these things. That's the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development on the line. Are you convinced?
Current events, developing stories,
tough questions.
Your voice making a difference.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.